Now I want you guys to stay tuned until the end of this video, because I have a very special announcement that you're not going to want to miss. Now, back to the video. The 24 Hours of Le Mans. The most grueling test of man and machine. One of the longest, most frustrating, and most difficult sporting events ever concocted. A chance for manufacturers to experiment and prove the worth of new technology, and the best place for drivers to put themselves to the test mentally and physically. Throughout the nearly 100 years of its existence, and especially in the latter half of said time, manufacturers have taken their new technologies and development strategies to the 24 Hours of Le Mans to put it to the test. This is because Le Mans gives the team special endurance circumstances that are hard to replicate elsewhere. Some of the most prestigious performance brands in the world, such as Audi and Peugeot, have become renowned as Le Mans champions, and have tested prototype technologies such as turbocharging and high-performance diesel engines at Le Mans. Now, if you've ever played the Gran Turismo or Forza titles, or even Le Mans 24 Hours, which I happen to own a copy of but have yet to try, I'm sure you'd recognize some of the more oddball Le Mans cars. But for me, one has always stood out in how violently different it was. This car sported a massive V12, rear-wheel drive, and an unmistakably, well, let's say functional design. Oozing with British character, this GT1 class racer exemplified either determination in sticking to your guns, or stupidity in not wanting to move on, depending on how you look at it. It was a car that was plagued with problems that weren't necessarily related to the car itself, its history being riddled with crashes, and quite a few that were, namely the faulty transmission. All of this while also serving as a bastion for natural aspiration. Now let's get into the story of said car. The Lister Storm.
An infrared transmitter opens the door and permits contact.
The Lister Storm was the brainchild of Mike Hughes, not long after the Lister Motor Company was bought by Lawrence Pierce, who himself engineered 90 Jaguar XJS models and brought their top speeds to above 200 miles per hour. After that successful venture, the new Lister decided to jump into motorsports, namely one of the most extreme tarmac disciplines of all time, FIA GT1. This required a brand new car, which Lister developed extensively. Seeing as Lister was and still is essentially a Jaguar tuning company, they had acquired use of a massive 7-liter Jaguar V12 for their machine, utilizing single overhead camshafts and a 6-speed Getrag manual transmission. Possibly the most unique part of the Storm is the fact that it was developed as a 2+2, and the road car version had rear seats. This meant the engine had to be mounted in the front, which wasn't unheard of in motorsports, but in GT1, where competitors consisted of full-blown supercars such as the Lamborghini Murcielago, the Ford GT1, and even Jaguar's own XJ220, it was safe to say it was in the minority when it came to driveline layouts in the class. The car definitely wasn't light, by any means, weighing in at just over 3,600 pounds. But the relatively low coefficient of drag, rated at 0.35, and obviously the immense torque helped it to overcome its heft. And as the icing on the cake, even the road car version was quoted as topping 200 miles per hour. The first iteration of the no-holds-barred racing version of this thumping beast, the Storm GTS, made its debut at the 1995 24 Hours of Le Mans in the famous GT1 class, with Jeff Lees, Rupert Keegan, and Dominic Chappell behind the wheel. Unfortunately, it didn't last long, as the transmission failed after only 40 laps. The Lister team then completed the full FIA calendar under the new GT2 class rule set. It achieved second place at Silverstone, just 2 laps behind the leading Chrysler Viper GTS-R. That was followed by a pole position and 3rd place at Zolder, and finally a 2nd place at Donington, where the Lister finishing a mere 26 seconds behind the winning Viper. This led to the Lister team finishing in a tie for 5th. Not bad for a company that hardly manufactured cars. Then they realized that the car wasn't so competitive against the newest GT1 competitors, so they further revised the car into the Storm GTL. This included a longer, more aerodynamic front end and a very liberal use of carbon fiber components in the frame and body. Later that year, at Le Mans, 2 GTLs were entered, but unfortunately both were out of the race by lap 77. An even further updated version of the car, featuring an even longer front nose design, won the overall 1999 British GP Championship, driven by Jamie Campbell-Walter and Julian Bailey, winning 7 races that season. The championship result was contentious, with a disagreement throughout the paddock surrounding changes to the rear aerodynamics of the Storm GTL. Multiple protests were launched against the car by the rival Blue Coral Porsche team, and the championship results remained provisional until after that season had ended. This was futile, and the Lister team was victorious, winning the 1999 British GT Championship. There were only 4 road cars built, and only 3 are known to remain to this day. Due to their high price tag, not many sold, and we're not sure how many were produced but didn't sell. Nonetheless, this car exemplifies the determination, evolution, and perseverance of humans in its purest form. If something doesn't work, refine it and try again. And I think that's a message we should all take to heart.